Shadow Pokemon are the most powerful out of all of the Mons in Pokemon GO. They rank at the top of each typing and at the top of nearly every Go Battle League. It is immensely important to catch the good ones when they're available, because not every Shadow Pokemon is always available, and some only come around once every couple of years. So today I'll be talking about 12 Shadow Pokemon that you should always catch when they're available in Pokemon GO. Starting with one that's available now if you're watching this video when it was uploaded, and literally one of the best Pokemon in the entire game. Shadow Beldum, which is insane that I was able to get not only a Shadow Shiny Beldum, but my first ever Shadow Hundo, a Shadow Hundo Beldum.
Oh, no shot! Are you serious?
Oh my god!
Dude, what? No way, bro!
A Shadow Hundo?
I've never gotten this before, and it's Beldum. This is one of the best ones you could ever get.
Okay, so what's the deal with this Pokemon? Why is it so good? Its evolution, Shadow Metagross, is the single best steel type in the entire game. Even better than Mega Aggron, Mega Scizor, and Mega Steelix. It is absurdly good, and I think the only non-Mega Pokemon that's better than all the Megas in its typing category. And since Steel is super effective against Rock, Ice, and Fairy types, it makes for a really useful Pokemon. There are plenty of raid bosses and meta-relevant legendary raid bosses of those typings, so having some powered up Shadow Metagross is super 9000 IQ. Like this guy, my Shadow Hundo Metagross with the Meteor Mash Community Day move, which is probably the most important part about this entire video, and I'll cover that a little bit later. First, let's power this up as much as humanly possible. We could use 1, 2, 3 XLs and 100,000 Stardust. Nice, and get it up to 4100 CP. Woo! We still need so many more XLs though, my god. And how do you find Shadow Beldum in Pokemon GO? Through the Team GO Rocket Leader encounters, which yes, means you can get a Shadow Shiny Metagross, which looks like this. Chef's kiss. The next Pokemon to always catch when you can is a bit of a sleeper. Shadow Tangela. The reason why is because its evolution, Shadow Tangrowth, is actually the #1 non-mega, non-legendary grass type in the entire game, which is wild considering this isn't really that rare or special of a Pokemon. No offense, Tangrowth fans. It's been available as a Shadow in the Team Go Rocket Grunt battles since May of 2021 and can be found by battling grunts with the dialogue, "Don't tangle with us," although it's not always available to catch. To know which Shadow Pokemon are currently available in the grunts in Pokemon GO, you can always check the Sylph Road's website, who keeps an updated guide and list of which available shadows are available. But when it is, you should absolutely hunt some down. Oh, and massive tip that applies to all of these Shadow Pokemon in this video and all Shadow Pokemon in general. Please don't purify them. Shadow Pokemon are so good because since they're Shadow, they get a 20% buff on their damage, but also a 20% decrease on their defense. They're a bit squishier, but they hit a lot harder. So do not purify them. They are so much better as Shadows. Like a Shadow 0% is, I think, better than a 100% IV of the same Pokemon. So like, keep them Shadow. And the next Shadow on this list is the legendary Shadow Latios. This beast of a Pokemon has only ever been available once. From July to November of 2022, it was encounterable after defeating Team Go Rocket leader Giovanni. Pizza Boy Giovanni, as I like to call him. I would kill for some pizza right now. Who knows when this Pokemon's coming back, but when it does, it's definitely worth your Super Rocket Radar. I unfortunately chose not to catch this Shadow Legendary and save my Rocket Radar for other Pokemon, which I now deeply regret. Shadow Latios ranks as one of the best Dragon and Psychic type Pokemon in the entire game, which are two super useful typings, so the fact that this Pokemon covers both is really impressive. So when it's back, get it. Let's quickly talk about the most important part of this entire video. How to get the move Frustration off of your Shadow Pokemon and the moves that you want onto your Shadows. Because if your Shadow Pokemon have the move Frustration, they're essentially useless. But every once in a while, an event typically focusing on Team Go Rocket comes around that allows you to TM Frustration off of your Shadow Pokemon. But this happens only for a limited time, and these events happen only a couple times a year. But when this does happen, I always upload a video here on the channel announcing the event and making sure that everyone knows that it's time to TM. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's gonna help you a lot, I promise. It will help you almost as much as catching Shadow Mudkip at every possible human possibility ever. This is one of Pokemon GO's best and most useful Pokemon, both as a Shadow and as a non-Shadow. Shadow Mudkip has been released since July of 2019 and has been relevant ever since. Its evolution, Shadow Swampert, is one of the best water types in the entire game, and it's super relevant in the Great and Ultra Leagues in PvP. Plus, non-Shadow Swampert can Mega Evolve, and the Mega is the #1 water type overall, so like, technically if you get a Shadow Mudkip that's high enough IVs to where if you purify it, it becomes a Hundo, it's like not a terrible idea to do, because then you could have a 100% IV purified Mega Swampert, but you might as well keep the Shadow if the IVs are that high. And again, it's not always available in the grunts, so make sure to check before grinding. Next one is one of my favorite Shadow Pokemon, Shadow Bagon. Shadow Bagon was released into the team leaders back in December of 2019, and it has been one of the top hunts anytime it's out. Luckily for me, I was able to get a good IV and a Shadow Shiny one the last time that it was around. Shadow Salamence ranks as the #1 non-Mega Dragon type in the entire game. It is a freaking beast! Plus again, it can be shiny, which makes it 100 times better. Although it is much harder to get since it's only available in the Team Go Rocket leaders, and it only comes around like, maybe once a year. A much easier Shadow Pokemon to get that's also super meta relevant is Shadow Gligar. This little guy was released as a Shadow back in July of 2020, then re-released as a Shadow Shiny in November of 2021. So I guess it's not technically that much easier to get because it's also a Team Go Rocket leader encounter. But if you're a PvP person, it's definitely worth battling and definitely worth getting, because Shadow Glysaur, its evolution, ranks 18th in the Great League and 5th overall in the Ultra League. It is a super meta relevant choice for all you GVLers out there. Next is one of my favorite Shadow hunts because of how useful and shiny it is, Shadow Machop. Its evolution, Shadow Machamp, hits in PvP, ranking 20th in the Great League, 62nd in the Ultra League, and 90th in the Masters League. And as a fighting type in the raid meta, it ranks as the #1 best non-legendary, non-mega fighting type in the entire game. The best part? It's really easy to get candies for. Since Machop isn't really a super rare spawn, and it spawns a lot during like fighting type events, it's pretty easy to grind up a ton of candies and XL candies to power up your Shadow Machamp. And how do you get this little meta-relevant muscle man? As of November 2022, Shadow Machop can be encountered also as a shiny, through the team leaders. I've definitely gotten super lucky with this Shadow Shiny and have caught 3 Shadow Shiny Machops total. Now, a Pokemon that is much more rare than that you should definitely catch when it comes around, is only available by defeating Team Go Rocket leader Giovanni, and is really almost never available. It's the one and only Shadow Moltres. This was released back in January of 2020, then released again as a part of special research for those of us who played Go Fest 2020, then it was released again in May of 2021. And for the lucky people who played Go Fest, the IVs for this Pokemon were boosted. I was able to get myself this absolutely incredible 14-14-14 IV Shadow Moltres. I can't believe I have this. Ooh, and we can actually power this up more. Why have I not powered? We need 360 XLs to level 50 this. This will take forever. Well, another 100,000 Stardust down, bunch of XL candies, and now our Shadow Moltres is up to 3,600 CP. Also notice how I haven't purified this, even though purifying it would make it a hundo. Keep your Shadow. In PvP, Shadow Moltres ranks 44th in the Masters League, and as a Fire-type attacker, it is the #1 non-Mega Fire type in the entire game. This thing is wildly useful and meta-relevant, and hasn't been available for years. So hopefully one day soon, we'll be able to catch another one from Giovanni, and when that opportunity comes, definitely take advantage of it. Next is a Shadow Shiny that I've unfortunately missed out on every time it's been released, and one that I wish that I had, Shadow Sneasel. This beaut was released in Team Leader Sierra encounters back in November of 2019. Then it came back again in Sierra in May of 2021. Twice! It's been out twice, and I've never gotten the Shadow Shiny. And I really wish it did, because its evolution, Weavile, is a freaking beast. As a Dark-type attacker, it ranks as the 2nd best non-Mega underneath Shadow Tyranitar. And as an Ice-type, it also ranks as the 2nd best non-Mega underneath Shadow Mamoswine. 2 extremely useful typings, 1 extremely useful Pokemon. Plus, it's sorta useful in PvP, ranking 88th in the Masters League. And I will say it's one of the better-looking Shadow Shiny Pokemon out there. Definitely worth the grind. Now, we just mentioned a Shadow Pokemon that is probably a top 5 Pokemon in the entire game overall. Shadow Larvitar. This is because Shadow Tyranitar is so insanely useful as both a Rock and a Dark type. Both typings being probably some of the most useful in the entire game, mainly due to the amount of Flying and Psychic type Tier 5 Legendary and Mythical raid bosses. As a Dark type, Shadow Tyranitar ranks as the #1 non-Mega overall Dark type. And as a Rock type, it ranks 2nd overall non-Mega underneath Shadow Rhyperior. It is, again, one of the most useful Pokemon in the entire game. Unfortunately though, Shadow Larvitar has never been released in the team leaders, and therefore it can't be a Shadow Shiny, but it's honestly better like that because it means that we can all go and hunt more and catch more without having to do the team leader battles and encounters, because that's really expensive and takes a lot of time. The dialogue to look out for is "Let's rock and roll," and again, check Sylph Road to make sure that it's available when you want to hunt it. And those are some of the best and most relevant Pokemon and Shadow Pokemon in the entire game that you definitely want to catch whenever you find them. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and check out the other 2 videos on screen. They're fun. This one's good. Click them, all right? See you in the next video.